Hi, Jennifer Campbell here, your online systemic leadership mentor. In this video series, we have arrived at step number 5 in the systemic change leadership journey. Now, in this video, you will learn all about eliciting the collective intelligence in your organization for the sake of generating knowledge, meaning, and energy to really deal with change and how this will help you with your change leadership success. Now, something that I always find very interesting and exciting about change processes is the generative interaction between people. And it's about those times when you bring groups of people from one organization together in various ways and forms, really in order to bring up information about the organizational system. And you also want to know what the change means to the system, and you want to generate ideas about how to solve problems or implement the change. Now, generative conversations and interactions are about bringing information and energy in the system together to actually work towards a common goal where you don't know the entire path just yet. Now, part of this step of letting the collective see itself, using its intelligence and generating ideas, what I also included in this step is my learning from Systemic Leadership Summit speakers such as Arowana Hayashi, Stuart Hill, Nora Bateson, and Cees Bakker. Now, as we discussed earlier in step 2 of this video series, when we were talking about the type of change or changes that you are dealing with, that a complex change requires collective intelligence or systems intelligence and sense-making from the collective. And one of the top mistakes I see when change is introduced into an organization is that the intelligence of the larger system is not used. This means not all voices in the system are heard. Now, failing to use the intelligence and wisdom that is present in your employee base or even your customers or clients means that you will very likely find a mismatch between a solution you are trying to implement and the type of solution you actually need to make the complex change a success. So as a consequence, people who are not involved in the solution generation and execution phase, but who actually do need to change their behavior to make any solution work, will feel left out. So not involving different stakeholders is a huge miss in energy that is needed. Other words for energy are involvement, buy-in, and early adoption of the change. Now, you may feel that mobilizing the collective intelligence means involving the entire organization in a change that you really feel is too small compared to the people who you would involve in that case. So many leaders think that this just slows down the process. Oh, here we go. We need to talk to all people in the organization. But let me tell you this. Actually, in the longer run, it will save you a tremendous amount of time, energy, and frustration. The process will not only eventually speed up the change process if you mobilize the collective intelligence, but it will speed up all change processes. And why is it? It's like this because it creates engagement, safety, and clarity that is beneficial to all other projects as well, not just the project of change at hand. Now, again, it doesn't mean that you mobilize the entire organization, but you may wonder, how does this collective intelligence and holding generative conversations really work? Well, actually, there are many different ways, shapes, and forms on how to do this. And there are many familiar or not so familiar tools or approaches to do this. But actually, this process usually involves a number of steps, and I'm ready to share them with you. Step number 1 is that you bring different stakeholders with different viewpoints and interests together in one room, whether that's in person or virtual. Now, the more diverse, the better, because it's very important that there is, a good representation of the entire organization in the room, but also to ensure that at least an average level of emotional intelligence is present, where people are open to different viewpoints and ideas. And so by doing this, you bring both possibility and complexity to the room that really matches your often complex change situation. Step number 2 is to introduce the change again, because we've done that at step 4, but at a larger level. But introduce the change in the room again, and also the different problems that you want or seek to solve with that change. Now, step number 3 is about creating psychological safety. Now, a space that's psychologically safe is one in which people can speak freely and openly without any negative consequences. It's also important that everyone agrees to refrain from using assumptions, judgments, blaming, contempt, or making things really personal. The psychological safety is like creating a container in which all the different voices can be held and heard. Now, what I just mentioned about all the different voices being heard is a concept that's important to introduce also, and that is step number 4. Make sure that everyone understands that they represent a voice of the system and that the focus is on finding out what's best for the organization and its clients. So not just for themselves and their own interests, because that tends to focus on individual roles that people have. In step number 5, you actually start a process of inquiry. Now, this is different from the regular discussions, brainstorm sessions, or meetings, because a process of inquiry actually is something more than the usual focus on mental and emotional input. My invitation to you is to invite the group to more than that. A process of inquiry can take on many different shapes and forms again, and I'll share different ones that I know. One is that you use systemic questions to open the space of inquiry. These are usually what and how questions that are related to the organization or the system as a whole, the change and the solutions at hand, and their systemic function. Now, instead of taking things apart, with the questions, you make different connections and see what information and ideas that these questions bring. Another way of shaping the inquiry is to really look at the patterns underlying the problems you seek to solve with the change. Looking at patterns is actually a way of acknowledging your organizational system that it has tried to solve things in its own way. So, looking for patterns in a system is understanding that what we normally call a problem is actually a systemic solution, a way for the system to deal with something that we end up calling problems, but actually they're not. So it's really looking at patterns, looking at exploring them while distancing yourself from the place of right or wrong. Then there is a third way of shaping the process of inquiry, and that is to use the space and our movement to get informed about what's going on in the system or what the system status quo is through space and our embodied experience of a problem. So well-known methods are, for example, constellations or social presencing theater. And these are examples of where you mostly, in a nonverbal way, express how the system is doing and how a change could or could not, may or may not help it move forward. And these are all open for exploration. So sometimes it also helps to introduce different aspects of a problem to different stakeholders through movement to actually see what's going on for the bigger whole. Now, these are just examples. Some may and some may not appeal to you, but I know that all of these examples are very effective as a way of shaping an inquiry process. Now, in step number 6, you close the inquiry. So there are new sites, insights, potential patterns, and combinations, as well as ideas that have now been gathered. Now, what's important is to allow the group to slowly consolidate different solutions and ideas and name what is needed to follow up with them. Part of this is also letting the group indicate which of the ideas hold most energy for further work and who wants to actually work with them. In step 7, you actually look back on the process because it's crucial for your organization's future adaptability and sustainability to nurture the process. Now, after sharing all this about step number 5, about holding generative conversations, know that that is only a small part of an effective systemic change leadership strategy. Now, the Systemic Change Leadership Journey is a framework that we use to help leaders like you increase their complex leadership success by 50% or more in terms of ROI within as little as 3 months, so that they can have a massive impact and really take their organization from surviving to thriving without wasting a lot of time, money, and energy on one-size-fits-all linear change management and leadership methods that really don't work. So if you feel after this video that you would like to continue the conversation and get really crystal clear about the one thing that you should be doing right now to create generative conversations the systemic way in your organization, or if you want to learn more about the Systemic Change Leadership Journey, then you can book a complimentary call with me. You can do so by clicking the link below. Now, in this call, we're going to be taking a look at your organization and how you can improve the process of inquiry to create generative interaction and move and mobilize the collective intelligence in your organization. What we'll also be doing is zooming out to the full Systemic Change Leadership Journey so that at the end of our call, you'll have an overview of your most important systemic change leadership strategy steps to work with and in your organization. I really look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.